Hey, what's up, guys? If you want to get started with the Linux command line, you probably need to find the Linux environment to test all your newly learned commands. This environment probably should be persistent, easy to set up, and also easy to maintain. And you maybe won't know additional hardware that you need to buy for this. So it maybe should run on your Windows system. If you're looking for something like that, Docker could be a really good solution. And I want to show you how you can set up a Linux environment with Docker. And don't be afraid, you don't need to know anything about Docker to do this. Maybe a short preview. When you set up your container, which you can imagine like a small and fast virtual machine, then you can just get into that container by entering one command, and then you are in the environment that is simulating a Linux operating system, which in this case is Ubuntu, and you can test all the commands you want to learn. So let's get started. We first want to install Docker Desktop, so just Google Docker Desktop and open its website and download the installer that matches for you. For me, it's Windows. When your download is ready, just find your Docker Desktop installer application and start it. Accept administration rights, and then the installer does some short downloading and asks you if you want to install the WSL2 components and add a shortcut, which we both can agree. Now it will take some seconds as the installer is unpacking some files. After the short waiting time of installation, Docker is installed and we can close the installer and start our Docker Desktop application. Now we are surely going to read the service agreement, and then we are going to accept this. When the GUI has started, it may take some seconds until the Docker engine is running, and you may need to create an account, but you probably can skip this or just create an account. But when the engine is running, you now can use Docker via the command line. And what we are going to do now is to create a Docker container with the Linux distribution Ubuntu running into it. And for this, we are going to run the command docker run, which is explained here in a short sentence. It's running a command in a new container, and we want to make interactive communication with the container. So we type -it, and we want to use the image Ubuntu, and the command we want to execute is bin bash, because we want to run the bash in the Ubuntu container. So it first says that he can find the image locally on our machine. There's no problem because we just can download it from an online library. And that's it. When the download is ready and the container started, we are into an Linux environment. We now can run all the commands we want to run in that environment. And when we are finished, we can exit the container by using the keyword exit. And if you now want to find all your containers, you need to type in the command docker ps for the running containers. But when we exit this container the first time, it stops. So we need to take a look on the not running containers. And we do that with ps minus a, which is for all. And here is our container. If we want to start this container again and go into this Ubuntu again, we can do that by typing docker start, and now we can use the ID or the name. But there is an advantage when we use the ID. We can just use the first number that identifies this container, so we can just use the 6. And if we now type docker ps, we can see that this container is up and running. And if we want to go onto the bash again, we just execute a command on that container by docker exec, and we want to go interactive again and on the container with the 6, and the command again is binary bash. And now we can do our Unix commands again, and also the stuff we did before is here also. And if we now exit, the container is up and running all the way. Actually, we're now done. You just can use this container and get into it, maybe just to learn something about Linux, Ubuntu, Unix, or to do some useful stuff. But you can also do some other funny stuff like starting another container with Ubuntu if you want to use two different one. Doing that by just making the same command like before. And we can also give our container a known name like Ubuntu 2. And then just want to use an interactive shell again on the Ubuntu image from the Ubuntu image, and the command is bash again. And we now run on a different instance. You can see that we're having another ID in this front. And if you exit, you can see that we have a new container with the Ubuntu image, which is different from that. And there's more, like doing some port forwarding with Docker 1 and then using the port tag. For example, we can open the port 80 to our local port 80 and just give it a name tag like web server, and then also execute it again. When we are on the machine, we can use apt to install some stuff. Maybe first update it. And upgrade. So now we can use apt just to install maybe the system controls, a web browser, or a web server. And accept that. The system control wants us to add our region informations. For me, it's Europe, and I will go for Berlin. And when the downloading and installation is ready, we could, for example, use our system control to start the Apache 2 service. And that seemed to work. And now we can just go to our web browser and go to localhost. And we find the web page that is hosted by the web server that is running into our container, which is really cool. But this is just out of scope. I just wanted to show you something that you can do on the Linux machine. But you're now totally free to do whatever you want with that. Yeah, you also can see the running containers or the containers in the GUI, but I prefer the command line. I hope you can use something from this tutorial, and it maybe helped you a bit. So see you guys, and see you soon.